Some Jeep Wrangler owners destroy their transmission without even realizing it, and one of the most common mistakes happens at less than 5 miles per hour. A single bad habit can quietly cook clutch packs, crack transfer case gears, or trigger a $5,000 rebuild months later. So today, I'm exposing the dumbest transmission-killing mistakes Wrangler owners make, before your Jeep becomes the next victim. 10. Starting things off with riding the clutch while you drive. If you drive a 6-speed JK with the NSG 370 transmission, or a 6-speed JL with the Ison AL6, you have a hydraulic component inside the bell housing called the throwout bearing. It's also known as the release bearing. Its job is to push against the clutch fingers to disengage the clutch when you stomp the pedal. When the clutch pedal is fully up, that bearing should be spinning at 0 RPM and touching nothing. But the moment even the weight of your left foot rests on the pedal, the bearing presses lightly against pressure plate fingers spinning at engine RPM. Wrangler forum members explained it directly. The throwout bearing was designed to take a beating, but riding the clutch wears it out way before its time. TJ forum users who reported chronic clutch resting habits had throwout bearings fail around 130,000 miles. Owners who treat the pedal like the floor is lava report bearings lasting north of 200,000 miles. Therefore, the fix is keeping your left foot completely off the pedal when you're not actively shifting. Use the dead pedal on the left. At long stoplights, shift into neutral and let the clutch pedal fully out. However, the hidden detail most other videos miss is Mopar's own TSB on the JK throwout bearing. They issued a service bulletin about a squeal sound on NSG 370 manuals caused by incorrect throwout bearing preload from the factory. Translation? Even brand new JKs came out of the plant with bearings already preloaded into wear mode. Riding the clutch just accelerates a failure already programmed into your Jeep from day one. Throwout bearing labor alone runs $800 to $1,500. 9. Up next is slamming into park before the Jeep stops moving. Your Wrangler's automatic transmission has a chunk of hardened steel inside it called the parking pawl. It looks like a tiny metal hook. When you move the shifter to P, that pawl drops into a notched ring spinning with the output shaft and physically blocks your wheels from turning. That pawl was engineered to hold a stationary Jeep in place. It was not engineered to absorb the momentum of a moving 4,500-pound Rubicon. But when you rush out the seat and ram the shifter into park while the Jeep is still drifting forward at 5 miles per hour, the pawl smashes into a spinning gear. You'll hear a clunk that's actually the pawl chipping teeth off the parking gear, fracturing the pawl itself, or shearing the spring clean off. Therefore, 3 months from now, you'll park on a slight hill, and your Wrangler will roll backwards because the pawl can no longer engage. A parking pawl replacement requires the transmission to come out, and shops charge $500 to $1,500 for that labor alone. However, the part nobody tells you is that this damage stacks invisibly across incidents. The first time chips a microscopic piece. The 5th time finishes the job. The fix takes 1 second of patience. Bring the Jeep to a complete stop, foot on the brake, then shift to park. On inclines, set the parking brake first, then shift. That transfers the weight onto the rear drum brakes, which were built to handle thousands of pounds of static load all day long. 8. Working down the list, we hit coasting in neutral to save fuel. Forbidden in plain English inside your owner's manual. Page 296 of the Jeep Wrangler manual contains a sentence almost no Wrangler owner has read. Do not coast in neutral and never turn off the ignition to coast down a hill. It then continues. Towing the vehicle, coasting, or driving for any other reason with the transmission in neutral can cause severe transmission damage. Why does Jeep care about this? Your automatic transmission has an internal oil pump driven only when the engine is turning. When you drop the shifter into N, going downhill, the input shaft slows to idle, but the output shaft is being driven backwards by your wheels at highway speed. Lubrication paths inside the transmission depend on every gear spinning at related speeds, and forcing one half to spin fast while the other half idles starves bearings, bushings, and clutch plates of oil. However, the second half of that warning is worse. People kill the ignition entirely to maximize gas savings. The moment your engine dies, you lose your hydraulic power brake assist and your electric power steering assist on JL models. Therefore, the brake pedal turns into concrete, the steering wheel needs 10 times the force to turn, and now you're flying down a mountain in a 4,500-pound Jeep that won't steer or stop. But the hidden joke nobody tells you is that you save zero fuel doing this. Every modern fuel-injected engine cuts fuel completely when you coast in drive over 20 miles per hour. So coasting in gear burns absolutely zero fuel anyway. You're risking your transmission and your life to save nothing. 7. Heading deeper into the danger zone, we hit driving in 4 WD on dry pavement, where Wrangler owners destroy transfer cases without ever leaving the parking lot. Your Wrangler's part-time four-wheel drive system, whether it's the Command Track NV241 on a Sport, the Rock Track NV241OR on a Rubicon, or the Select Track NV242 on a Sahara, follows one brutal rule. In 4H and 4L, the front and rear drive shafts get mechanically locked together at the same rotational speed. That works in snow, mud, gravel, or sand because your tires can slip a hair to compensate. But on dry asphalt, your tires don't slip. The moment you swing the steering wheel, the outside front tire has to travel farther than the inside front, and both front tires want a different rotational speed than the rears. The locked drive shafts refuse. That mismatch builds up as raw twisting force inside the transfer case chain, the U-joints, the axle shafts, and the transmission output shaft. Page 348 of the JK Owner's Manual states it word for word. 4 high should not be used on wet or dry pavement. Most videos stop there. Here's the deeper secret. Every Wrangler that isn't a Rubicon has a built-in 0.01 axle ratio mismatch from the factory between the Dana 30 front and the Dana 35 or 44 rear. Front 3.07, rear 3.08, or 3.73 and 3.74, or 4.10 and 4.11. That tiny gap means even driving straight in 4H on the highway is silently building drivetrain windup. Therefore, that hopping you feel turning at low speed in 4H is the transfer case physically warning you. Keep doing it, and you'll crack transfer case gears, twist drive shafts, or shred CV joints. However, only Rubicons with matching front and rear Dana 44s escape that 0.01 issue. Before we get into the worst mistakes on this list, if you want to make your Jeep last 200,000 to 500,000 miles without destroying expensive parts like your transmission, check out my ebook, The 500,000-Mile Jeep Blueprint, linked in the description below. It's packed with the maintenance habits and owner secrets most dealerships never tell you. 6. Halfway down the list sits shifting from drive to reverse while rolling, which fries clutch packs and bands inside the transmission. This one looks completely innocent. You back out of a parking spot, throw it into drive, give it gas, realize you're aimed wrong, slam it back into reverse without stopping. The Jeep jerks, you hear a thunk, you keep going. Nothing seems broken on the outside, but what just happened internally was brutal. Inside your 4.2 RLE 4-speed, your 545 RFE, your W5A 580 NAG1, or your 8 HP 75 ZF 8-speed, gear engagement runs on friction clutch packs and brake bands squeezing hydraulically. When you ask the transmission to suddenly reverse direction while the output shaft is still rotating forward, those clutch packs get clamped against gears spinning the wrong way. Heat spikes instantly. Friction material burns off the clutch plates and contaminates your transmission fluid. Therefore, drivers report exactly the symptoms you'd expect. JL owners on the forums report P0733 codes for incorrect gear ratio, burnt transmission fluid showing up at dealer inspections, hard shifts that get progressively worse, and eventually a no reverse condition that needs a $4,500 rebuild. However, the hidden killer here is the TCC valve spring. It's a tiny torque converter clutch spring inside the pump cover that controls how smoothly the converter engages. Slam drive to reverse enough times and that one spring fails, which forces the transmission to come completely out for a job that runs $1,500 to $3,000 in labor alone. The fix costs 1 second. Stop completely. Wait until the output shaft stops spinning, then shift direction. 5. Picking up speed now, we hit brake torquing your automatic at a stoplight before launching. You've seen people do this. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, RPMs climbing to 2,500 or 3,000 before they release for a dramatic launch. It feels powerful. It also destroys your transmission from the inside. The physics are ugly. Your torque converter uses fluid to transfer power from the engine impeller to the transmission turbine. When you hold the brake and gas at the same time, the impeller spins at engine RPM, but the turbine is locked still by your brakes. Fluid shears violently between the two at extreme speed, and that generates massive heat instantly. Honda's own factory shop procedure for torque converter stall testing limits it to 6 to 8 seconds at 1,800 to 2,100 revolutions per minute, and no more than 10 seconds total. The fluid temperature spikes past 250 degrees Fahrenheit in those few seconds. Industry rule of thumb: every 20-degree rise in steady transmission temperature cuts fluid life in half. Therefore, the damage stacks fast. The torque converter impeller vanes can break clean off from the shock. The stator clutch can fail. Transmission seals get burned by heat. Friction material from the clutch packs gets blasted into the fluid and circulates everywhere. The W5A580NAG1 in the JK and the 8HP75 in the JL are both especially heat sensitive because their thinner ATF was engineered for efficiency, not abuse. However, the fix is to just not do it. The Wrangler's tow capacity, even at 5,000 pounds on a four-door Rubicon, was spec'd assuming you don't brake torque before launches. Press the gas from a normal dead stop. 4. Now we're getting catastrophic with shifting into 4LO above a slow walking pace. The transfer case is not the transmission. Your transmission has synchronizer rings that mesh gears at any speed. The NV241 transfer case has 0 synchronizers. The gears inside it are straight-cut dog teeth that only engage cleanly when the input and output shafts are spinning at nearly the same speed. The manual lays out the procedure. To shift from 4H to 4L, you must be rolling at 2 to 3 miles per hour. Your automatic must be in neutral, or your clutch pedal pressed if you're driving a manual. Then you firmly pull the lever back through neutral straight into 4L without pausing. But if you jam it into 4L at 15 or 20 miles per hour, those gear dogs slam into each other while spinning at completely different speeds. Wrangler forum users describe the sound as a box of marbles. That noise is hardened steel chipping off gear teeth in real time. Therefore, one botched shift can skip a tooth in the transfer case, and your Rubicon's 4-to-1 reduction becomes a $1,500 to $3,000 rebuild bill. However, the hidden trap most owners walk into is mixing up two different procedures. Shifting between 2H and 4H is nothing like shifting into 4L. You can flip between 2H and 4H at any speed up to 50 miles per hour without stopping, without going through neutral, because there's no gear reduction happening, just an axle engagement. Owners who learn 2H to 4H first and assume 4L works the same way are the ones who detonate their transfer cases on the trail. 3. Final stretch now. We have towing over your Wrangler's capacity, which overheats the transmission until clutch packs glaze over. Your Wrangler's official tow rating depends entirely on configuration. Two-door Wranglers, regardless of trim or engine, max out at 2,000 pounds. Four-door Sport, Sport S, Willys, and Sahara trims max at 3,500 pounds. Four-door Rubicon with the 8-speed automatic maxes at 5,000 pounds. Those are published Stellantis figures for 2025 and 2026 model years. Therefore, when you hook a 4,800-pound boat behind a two-door Sport rated for 2,000, you're at 240% of capacity. The transmission fluid temperature on a long uphill grade in summer heat climbs past 240 degrees Fahrenheit within minutes. One Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe owner on the forums posted his transmission temperature hit 279 degrees on a 4-hour towing trip, and the dealer had to replace the entire transmission cooler. Trans fluid breaks down chemically past 240 degrees, clutch packs glaze over, and the bands lose hold strength. However, the hidden trap most owners don't know about is that the Wrangler comes with a Class 2 hitch on most trims, not a Class 3. The hitch receiver bracket itself can fail before the transmission. Tongue weight matters too. Tongue weight should be 10 to 15% of trailer weight. A 3,500-pound trailer needs 350 to 525 pounds on the hitch ball, and the Wrangler's short wheelbase makes anything outside that cause dangerous trailer sway. Worst of all, the failure mode is sneaky. You feel nothing during the tow. Damage shows up 2 weeks later as harsh shifts, slipping between gears, or a burnt fluid smell at idle. By then, your $7,800 rebuild bill is locked in. If you need to tow over 5,000 pounds regularly, rent a U-Haul. Your Wrangler will thank you. 2. Just before the worst, the runner-up is dumping the clutch or doing reverse burnouts in a manual Wrangler because the gearbox can't survive the shock. The NSG 370 transmission inside your 2007 to 2018 JK has a published manufacturer input torque rating of 272 pound-feet. Your 3.6 Pentastar produces 260 pound-feet at the crank. That's a 12 pound-foot safety margin. Your transmission was spec'd with almost zero headroom over the engine bolted to it. Therefore, the moment you launch by revving to 3,500 revolutions per minute and dropping the clutch on dry pavement, instantaneous shock load briefly multiplies torque way past 272 pound-feet. A 2013 Wrangler owner on the forums posted that he did 2 mild reverse burnouts in the entire lifetime of his Jeep, and both trashed the transmission. But the part most YouTube videos miss is this. Why does reverse destroy these gearboxes faster than first gear? Reverse gears in the NSG 370 are straight cut, not helical cut like the forward gears. Straight cut teeth are weaker because the contact patch is smaller. Reverse also has the highest torque multiplication of any gear in the box. However, the situation hits JL Wrangler owners even harder. The 2018 to 2023 JL Wrangler and the 2020 to 2023 Gladiator with the Aisin AL6 6-speed got an actual NHTSA recall covering 42,887 vehicles for clutch pressure plate overheating that could fracture and blow holes in the transmission case. Hard launches and clutch dumps accelerate that exact failure mode. Drivers report gear whine, rattling at idle, and warn synchronizers months after a single incident. A fresh NSG 370 from Mopar runs $3,200. The Aisin AL6 clutch and flywheel replacement outside warranty runs over $2,500. The Wrangler was never built to be a drag car. Treat it like the truck transmission it is. And finally, number 1, the absolute worst transmission killer of them all is ignoring the overtemp warning when it pops up. When that message reading service transmission or transmission hot appears on your JL Wrangler's instrument cluster, the transmission control module has already detected fluid temperatures above 240 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the manufacturer's electronic plea begging you to stop driving immediately. But what most drivers do is keep going, maybe to the next exit, maybe to get home, maybe because it'll probably reset itself. One Jeep 4xe owner posted his transmission temperature hit 279 degrees while merging onto the highway, and he had to limp back to the dealer at 5 miles per hour. Another JL Sport owner with the 2024 manual saw the clutch overheat warning, the start-stop system fail, and the Jeep drop into limp mode within 5 minutes. He pulled over and let it cool. He was one of the lucky ones. Therefore, ignoring this warning is exactly how you go from a $250 fluid service to a $5,000 to $8,000 complete rebuild. However, the hidden secret most other videos completely miss is what happens at different temperature thresholds. The fluid breaks down chemically past 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Past 260 degrees, oxidation accelerates and varnish coats the valve body. Past 270 degrees, the clutch friction material physically delaminates from its steel discs and dumps that lining straight into the fluid. That's the point where your transmission goes from sick to terminal. The right move when that light hits costs you nothing. Pull off safely, shift to park. Crank the heater to full blast to pull heat off the radiator. Let the engine idle for 15 to 20 minutes. Then drive gently to a shop. Ignoring that light is what costs you everything. And those were the transmission-killing mistakes that destroy more Jeep Wranglers than most owners realize. Let me know down in the comments which one shocked you the most. Subscribe if you love Jeeps, and click the video on screen right now for more hidden Jeep secrets most owners never learn. See you there!